are solely the opinions of the original source who expressed them. They do not necessarily represent the opinions of Revolution Radio and Freedom Slips.
Let's hope I'm on air, everyone. Let's just do a little check. Someone in the chat room, please announce that you can hear that I've started the show. I don't know where Mechie is. Hopefully he's on his way. But I'll start by doing our show intro. I'm Dave, and this would also be Mechie as well. And this is Platos Cave, broadcasting from Australia for Revolution Radio on revolution.radio. That is the home of fresh ideas. You can also get yourself some merch from the website. If you like anything we say, try to donate. It's a one-way stream of consciousness. If you like what we say, you can buy something from the station. That's even easier, isn't it? Because then you get something in return. At least, if anything, if you like what we say, support the station, tell someone about it. If you can't, maybe they can. It's easy. See how easy that was? You can tune into us. That is Revolution Radio. Us being everybody involved. You can do that on your smart device using an app, or listen at home on a Grace Tabletop digital radio. I wrote that so long ago. I mean, probably 14 years ago. You can access the station's archives for free, which is also another good thing. You can listen to your heart's content. You can binge on our shows, other host shows, download them in MP3 format. If you ever make something of them, for instance, if you ever make something of them, then let us know. Let us know, send us a link. When we probably won't hate you. Probably. That's the start. At least. Let's do that. Let's say that. I'm broadcasting at a darker junk country because I'm familiar with the traditional custodians of the land from whence I broadcast. I'm not sure that's the true use of the word whence. Try me. Let's see what happens. Oh boy. Today is the last day of me working at one particular place of work, and tomorrow is the beginning of me working at a new place of work. Welcome to the show, Mechie.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Perfectly.
Far out. This is just nuts. Discord keeps... As soon as I dial in, Discord just decides, no, not today. Thank you very much. Not today, Satan.
Not today, Satan. That's
and
really
then I
funny.
have to restart it. Like I have to restart my machine, but I tell you what, I think the only thing I can do is to restart 20 minutes before the show, which is what I'm going to do now. I thought I could just jump in because before I could, but now there seems to be something that makes it freeze. But here we are.
That's okay. I can call you Blister. You've arrived after I've done the intro.
Sweet bananas. Hey, how's your craziness holding up for you? Are you enjoying your craziness? Crazy afternoons.
Yeah, I'm kind of liking it. You know, it's maybe getting up to the level. It's nearly biblical. You know, dogs and cats
biblical.
living together.
Very nice. Very nice.
You know,
in sin.
Like that's from Ghostbusters.
But I'll be honest with you, yeah, it is. What worries me at the moment, though, because we've just seen one of the most powerful earthquakes in memory, in history, in fact, in Kamchatka, which is sort of eastern Siberia. It's between Alaska and I guess Russia. There's this little peninsula.
Yeah.
That sort of juts out, and there was a massive 8.8
Mm-hmm.
earthquake. Now, some people say it was this huge. Some people say it is the second largest. Some people say the sixth largest. It's one of the largest we've ever measured. And lucky, so far at least, the tsunami wasn't as bad as they said it could have been. But it is part of the Ring of Fire that goes around the Pacific. It goes all the way up to Kamchatka and then sort of around Alaska and down into California. So it's sort of this whole area is quite volatile. What worries me is the potential knock-on effect this might have, because 8.8 is pretty massive, right? And there have been some rumblings in Yellowstone. So I'm going to say here.
And Mount Rainier has thousands of earthquakes. Mount
Rainier, yeah. I'm hoping that Yellowstone is not going to blow, but there's definitely increased earthquake activity, both in volume and magnitude. So there's more. Okay, there are more earthquakes, but they're also more powerful, and this was one of the most powerful we have ever.
And there's more volcanism.
Yes, it is. Yeah, all connected, 100%.
And the nearest volcano to that earthquake is in the Russian territory, and it also blew.
Yeah, well,
at the same time.
Yeah, it's not. Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing. Right? I mean, ultimately it's all connected, and the key thing here is to be thankful that there were only a few people living in the area. Like, this is a very sparsely populated place at the best of times. If this had been if we had an 8.8 in Tokyo, there'd just be rubble. It'd be looking like Gaza right now. So lucky that that didn't happen. But yeah, I'm telling you, it's interesting to see it all unfold. And then we have the craziness of the people. The craziness of the people. Oh.
So I'll start with this one, Mackie, because what should have happened a long time ago has now started to be unfurled, and that is the recognition. While it's only 3 members of the UN, 3 have come out and said that they support a 2-state. It could be a beginning. Could be the beginning, but it should have been clear. All the time.
150 countries in the UN have recognized the Palestinian state. 150 countries. Mm-hmm. What hasn't happened yet, that any of the G7 have recognized them. So America, Germany, France, Great Britain, etc., Canada. Mm-hmm. None of those countries, which are close allies to Israel, none of those countries have acknowledged or recognized Palestine as a state. This, as you pointed out quite rightly, is the beginning of the crumbling of the Israeli sphere of influence. And remember, I spoke about this when this sort of first became pretty bad, that Israel has squandered all its sympathies and empathies, and it is now going to struggle to just exist, because it is doing all the things for which it was founded, or for which it was founded to prevent.
Exactly.
Israel was founded to give Jewish people homeland. That's it. That's really it. So they can't be prosecuted, etc., etc. But let's be fair. Right from the start, the Arab nations did try to destroy Israel. Right from the start. Okay, but Israel was strong enough to defend itself, and later got help from the states, etc., etc. Initially, the most powerful army in the region was Egypt. So both Russia and America were helping Egypt, but then Israel beat Egypt resoundingly, and that shifted. So Israel became the client state that everybody looked to as the military power in the region. But let's be clear: the Arab states did try to destroy Israel. That's a fact. Okay, So I can understand the paranoia on the side of the Israelis. But go on, yeah.
So I used the term today in the description of this turning point in the support of Israel. And that is that people are seeing it for what it has happened, and that I think the consideration that is now being realized is that Israel has gone rogue. Does that make sense when I say it?
Look, you're correct in the sense that the actions that Israel is now undertaking, you would expect a rogue state like Myanmar, North Korea, even China to undertake, especially when there's such a huge backlash from the international community.
That's right.
I mean, last year they issued arrest warrants for Benjamin Netanyahu at the ICC, right?
That's right.
And they're calling it genocide, and they're calling. I mean, yeah, but you're right. Yeah, it is definitely rogue now. Go on.
So that's my point. I didn't consider the word to be. I didn't like mush it up and connect it in. I didn't do any of that until today. Today was when I had the realization that because of the calls for from the least obvious places for a two-state situation, that's when I reflected upon their actions. I know you say this a lot, and you've measured the numbers, and it seems asymmetrical. There wasn't a one-for-one. The neighboring countries, all but Saudi Arabia, for that matter, have just witnessed probably. Like, I'm not a hater of Israel, and I don't hate Israel. I don't hate Jews. Nothing. There's no hate from me at all. I'm a commentator watching. If this was a sporting match, and someone threw a punch, however many punches would have been considered to be punches from the border crossing, whatever that time was it October or something, right? Whatever that date was. To this event, on field, if they were sporting players, are now at 50,000 or more compared to that amount of people, surely you've got to, a ref's got to blow the whistle. That's what my point here. I'm not in support of either side. I feel sorry for the Palestinians, for that matter, but the call now is that the two-state can occur, but now there's some conditions, and that is that Hamas is no more. So if that were the case, then these new advocates for a two-state support, that's what their condition. It's conditional. So this whole thing, and look, I still think, look, with all that going on, it's got to be a distraction for something else. I can't help myself.
I agree with you.
Yeah,
I agree with you.
So this is my problem. I think I'm feeling that dilemma that everybody else, say the G7, are feeling right now. They've done the turn the back thing openly within their own countries. There's news stories out there. I'm trying to pull support, but I really can't. I really have to continue to support them, but I'm not going to mention anything positive about it. Can't you just stop right now? Isn't that enough? Isn't enough is enough? Watching a bully now getting pummeled, and what do you do? This is my point. And this is that point, I think. This is the point at which I think the other countries are just going, far out, dude, stop it. But will it amount to an end? I think that's why we're all at bated breath now to see what's going to come about. Meki, what do you think?
Look, I think, first of all, what are we distracting from, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's the first question. What is being, what is being sleight of handed? Oh, nothing to see here. Look over here.
Is it the Great Reset?
And I do believe. Sorry.
Is it just simply the Great Reset? The more of this.
No, I don't think so. So I think the Great Reset is it's I wouldn't say in full swing, but it's well underway, and I think the managed depopulation over the next couple of generations is also underway. So those are things that are inexorably moving towards conclusion. Either way, be it that we submit meekly or that we fight it. Those are the two options that we have, obviously, right? But that's going to unfold as we move to the next 20 or 30 years. It's not tomorrow. No, what I fear, Dave, is that the distraction is much more profound. And I do believe, I know this sounds crazy, I know that it's okay, but I do believe that we're being distracted from a number of things.
This is a
and
safe
we've been
place,
distracted
Becky.
from these things.
You can say
it. Safe place. It's a circle of trust. That's an oblong. That's not a circle, Mackie. What are you talking about? It's
hit perihelion.
It's the world. It's the world we should be living in.
Yeah,
it's what it is. There was a movie. I think it was called Tomorrow World, and I think I want to say Mel Gibson was in it. I could be wrong. But essentially, all these scientists got together and they went to another dimension and created this utopian world, etc. Blah blah blah, whatever. Right? And then the machines took over and all went.
Sounds right.
But
did you skip ahead a few pages? Because that's what's happening. Yeah,
that's what's happening. But what I think is happening here for the last probably 100 years, we have seen the active suppression of knowledge, information, technologies, inventions that in every field, by the way. I'm not just talking about technology here and free energy and all that. Not just that and anti-gravity. I'm talking about historical stuff as well. I'm talking about archaeology. I'm talking about suppressed history, and you have to be blind, Dave, not to see all the things that were suppressed. It starts with the giants, the red-headed giants in America. Then it goes to ancient civilizations that predated ours, an Ice Age civilization, in fact. Not a civilization after the Ice Age or before the Ice Age, but a civilization that was thriving during the last Ice Age around the equatorial zone, which was a lot more fertile and a lot more comfortable and had a lot more land than it does today. And also the technological capabilities, because we look at this is a very big answer to a question, but you look at all the technology and all the things that we find that we can't replicate today. We dismiss it. It's just, whatever. People worked with obsidian, tiny little obsidian pearls, and they managed to drill holes through those things. And now obsidian is volcanic glass. It's terribly brittle, but people worked with it, and they managed to make these really tiny balls and strung it like pearls. They found granite vases that we couldn't make today. They saw granite worked in such a way that was perfect right angles, machined even, but except, you couldn't see any machine type or tool marks, all the tool marks that you could see spoke of a drilling technology that is completely incomprehensible to us. And in some of the stuff, in fact, required a lathe to cut and to work. Something that we don't.
Some of the pottery, it looks like pottery, but it's granite.
Yeah.
And it's impossibly thin, and you can hold a light through some of it. But it's got handles. Right. The handles are the original material. Insane. They're not glued on. Yeah. And they've done digital scans of those now, just for the audience, Becky. They've done digital scans, and they are rotationally perfect. You can't carve it. It must have been on a lathe. That's crazy. We can't do that today.
In fact, no, we can't, right? And you go to any stonemason any person that understands that works with materials like that, they'll tell you, no, we can't do it. But we disregard this. Each discipline, like archaeology or physics or whatever you are, you always disregard the other disciplines. And you always say, oh, no, where's the evidence? Where's this? Where's that? And only if it fits in within your frame of reference can you accept it. You can't accept any other frame of reference. On top of that are these finds that were made in these gold mines, coal mines, other mines, iron, copper, etc. mines, where the miners found tools and mortar and pestle is a famous one. Also human remains, believe it or not. They found gold chains embedded in coal. Now, you ask yourself, well, why don't, if that happened back then in the late 19th century, why doesn't it happen anymore? Because the way we mine today is very different to the way we used to mine in the olden days. And secondly, I think there are now directives that would say disregard or destroy, right? Because you don't want to close your mine if you've got a very important archaeological find. That just wouldn't stand, right? And we do know that these things were found, though, but it's being dismissed because there was no one there that's an expert, and it's always easy to dismiss things, right, if they don't fit into your paradigm. Elizabeth Steen McIntyre, she found human habitation going back 250,000 years in the Americas. Completely unacceptable. But the scientific evidence proved her correct.
That's right.
Still, it was retested twice, and still she's correct, but we haven't moved the needle, right? So there's this vast mountain of knowledge that is kept from us. Ancient history, and I'm talking about so ancient we didn't even think humans existed back then. Like tens, maybe even hundreds of millions of years ago, do we find evidence of human or human-like creatures. Completely unacceptable by today's standards because we've all bought into the theory of evolution. Now, I've got no problem with the theory of evolution, right? But I want to say one thing, and I've said it before. Look at a shark, look at a crocodile, okay? And my favorite fish, the coelacanth, but we'll talk about that one in a second. The shark and the crocodile are still a shark and a crocodile after 300 million years. They didn't evolve into something else. They changed in size, sure enough, right? Some are bigger, some are smaller. I mean, Megalodon was massive.
Usually due to predation. So they'll change size for whatever they're hunting.
In fact, we found this in the Philippines, in Indonesia, on islands. You find pygmy elephants and pygmy rhinoceroses and so forth, because of the food source was just less. So the animals shrink. It's just an adaptation to their environment. Right?
A household cat
and
going rogue out in the bush, having to hunt larger and larger prey, actually grow in size.
Yeah, you adjust 100%. You adjust to your environment. It doesn't change into a bird or a fish. It's still a cat. It's just bigger. Now, but over the course of several hundred million years, neither the crocodile nor the shark changed from what they are. Size, yes, but it's still identifiably a crocodile and it's still identifiably a shark. Now, and we have the fossil record throughout the time, right? Now, the interesting, and I know I talk about this a lot, but the coelacanth is a primitive bony fish that was a contemporary of the dinosaurs 65 million years ago. And then there's nothing in the fossil record, still nothing, by the way. And we thought, well, it clearly died out with the dinosaurs 65 million years ago. It's a reasonable assumption. Only it's still alive, and it's exactly the same as well. It's still a primitive fish, and fishermen off the coast of Madagascar in the Indian Ocean catch it all the time. Apparently doesn't make good eating. My point is this. As a human being, right? Now, when I was growing up and went to school in the Dark Ages, the human being, Homo sapiens sapiens, was meant to be 100,000 years old. That was pretty much it. And Neanderthal was a predecessor. Cro-Magnon kind of as well. And we didn't talk about Denisovan man and others because we didn't know about them yet, or Homo forensis. They didn't exist, right? We hadn't discovered them yet. Now the age of humanity, or Homo sapiens, has been pushed back to 300 and even 350,000 years. That's in my lifetime. We've come from 100,000 years to 350,000 years. Also, we now understand that Neanderthal was in fact not our ancestor, but more like a cousin or stepbrother, if you will, because we all completely contemporary. We interbred with Neanderthal, interbred with Cro-Magnon, interbred with Homo forensis, interbred with Denisovans, interbred with a couple others, and so on and so forth. So the picture is changing, and the timeline is pushed back further and further. And I submit here that it will be pushed back even further, depending. And once these finds will be acknowledged, because the finds have been made. It's not like we haven't made them. One of the most controversial things ever is a collection of footprints. Okay. And now in a fossilized riverbed. They came to light, some time ago, and there's a whole bunch of animals, dinosaurs, as it were, footprints. Now the problem was that these dinosaur footprints were not correct, meaning they were dinosaurs leaving footprints that we think didn't coexist in their time frames. They were, we thought that they were several tens of millions of years apart in existence, right? So that was obviously a problem, but there was a much bigger problem. And the thing is, it wasn't like these footprints were left by someone and then nothing happened for 100 million years and then someone else made them. These footprints actually step on each other, right? So they are contemporary footprints. There is there are footprints there that look like human feet or human footprints that are also crisscrossing with the dinosaur tracks. Right? Now creationists are going, yeah, see, we're always right along, blah, blah, blah. I submit that human beings are of some shape or another, Homo sapiens, sapiens, whatever, has been around for a very long time indeed. And we just don't remember. We've forgotten for probably on purpose, but we've been around for a long time. So I don't want to get to this. We've done many show cycles on it, and soon we'll have hypothesis where it's going to be dealt with in a shiny set out in some detail if you're interested. But it is certainly true that this mountain of knowledge, Dave, that exists outside of your school learning is what we're distracting from. And because we have cameras everywhere now, literally, we capture a lot of things that are very, very odd. And finally, the governments of the world had to acknowledge that the UFO phenomenon is a real thing. It's not swamp gas, it's not this, it's not that. That was just the first one of many, right? Because if the UFO thing is a real thing, we now have to acknowledge that somebody has anti-gravity technology. It's that simple. There's no way, especially with no visible propulsion, that you could fly this thing in the way that it's being flown. Right? You've somehow conquered anti-gravity. Right? They're popping in and out of existence. They display very strange characteristics, a whole bunch of stuff, and some people think we've re-engineered them. I believe that we have the technologies, but I think that there are segments of our population on the surface of the planet that are probably 1,000 years ahead of us. Now think about where we were 1,000 years ago, right? 1,000 years ago, we're just coming out of the Dark Ages. We haven't even started the Renaissance yet. Okay, we're smack bang in the middle of the Dark Ages. The Roman Empire has fallen. Right, there's a whole bunch of barbarians running around in Europe. Okay, but they're very high cultures in South America, Africa, and Asia. They're big civilizations, very powerful, as we're now discovering. Right, but that was 1,000 years ago. Now imagine us right now, right, and imagine what we would be like in 1,000 years hence. What kind of tech we would have, especially if you consider the speed with which we've developed. I recently saw an article again where I don't want to lie to you guys. I can't remember the name. I think I'll tell you exactly. It was a gentleman that go away. Here we go. I have to go find my thing. It was a gentleman that said we have all of the tech that you. Oh, here we go. This is it. This is Colonel Philip Corso. I want to give you the quote. Let there be no doubt. Alien technology harvested from the infamous saucer crash in Roswell led directly to the development of the integrated circuit chip, laser, and fiber optic technologies. particle beams, electromagnetic propulsion systems, depleted uranium projectiles, stealth capabilities, and many others. How do I know? I was in charge. Colonel Philip Corso, Army Intelligence Officer, former head of foreign technology at the U.S. Army's Research and Development Department at the Pentagon. 4 years Director of Intelligence on President Eisenhower's White House National Security Staff. Colonel Philip Corso.
Now, he wouldn't be able to say that unless he was given permission to say it.
Well, or he's close to death.
That's
in
right.
fact, he is dead now.
Deathbed confession. Yeah, huh?
Yeah, but yeah, well, that's it. I mean, that's the only way you get these things. It will have to be deathbed confessions. So we had a show on this as well. So this is where we are, everybody. This is exactly what this is all designed to do. So let's give people a bad education. Let's give them terrible food. Let's stupefy them with short attention spans and devices and distractions, and then give them more distractions. Give them things that don't really matter to worry about, and make it horrendous, right? I mean, what is the war in Ukraine really going to accomplish? Millions have been killed and maimed, mostly on the Russian side, to conquer the Ukraine, to take that piece of land, to satisfy one person, one insane person. Same with Gaza. I mean, a two-state solution, is the only solution to this problem. And everybody knows this, except Israel is now, driving very hard to depopulate or de-Palestinianate Gaza, get all the Palestinians out. Thank you very much. Right? And again, I'm not disputing Israel's right to exist. Of course, it has a right to exist. Right? Everybody has got a right to a homeland, but so do the Palestinians. And let's make no mistake. The Palestinians have that right as well. But nonetheless, in the scheme of things, these problems could be solved tomorrow. They could be solved tomorrow, Dave.
Mm-hmm.
They really could be. You just stop supplying weapons to Israel. You stop buying stuff of Russia. You actually go into Russia, put boots on the ground, and say no more. Put 200,000 NATO troops into Russia, right? Of course, then you have to contend with the fact that he might use nukes, but then it's good night for everybody anyway. I don't think he would, but still, you never know. And all our problems, in fact, could be solved. But what we've done, though, as a society, we've concentrated all our wealth in a very tiny group of people, the billionaires. That's where most of the world's wealth lives. Right? And this is literally about 2,000 people, right? Ostensibly that we know about. I mean, there are others that are even more richer, I should say, and more powerful that we don't know about. But the ones we know about, there's about 2,000 of them. If you took that wealth and even half, even if you only took half, leave them half their wealth, but if you took half the wealth of the billionaires, the world would not have an energy problem. The world would not have a water problem. The world would not have a food problem. The world would not have an education or housing problem. The world would not have the problems that are causing all the other problems. So I know it's a long answer to your question, Dave, but I think that's what we're being distracted from. The fact that there is a lot more knowledge, a lot of information that is simply being kept from us. You know what I mean?
I agree, and of course I agree, but I think you said something really powerful in there, and that was the admission from the US government, finally, that UAPs or UFOs traditionally exist. That's the biggest piece of information, because observing their behavior is traditionally the same discussion. It's the same description. It is without ailerons. There's no wings. There's no tail. They don't make any sound. They could abruptly change direction or instantaneously change direction, go from 80,000 feet to sea level in a blink of an eye. They can go from here to somewhere else instantaneously for all intents and purposes. Now, none of that technology is released to the public. We don't have the ability to do any of this ourselves. So it is clear that there is a technology way above what we have in our society, but that admission also comes with, well, it could be ours. It does exist. We've come up with terms to describe how they move, like anti-gravitic propulsion in some way.
Mm-hmm.
We've described it. You can only imagine that if there was some in the sky, and if reports are true, that we've shot them down or they've crashed. I think crashed is the stupidest idea of all. So if they've got the ability to fly about, and evade our weapons, then how did they crash? Are they stupid? Are they inept? Maybe it's like District 9. Maybe they don't know how, or they don't have the tech to repair anything. Maybe they came here as fugitives from a destroyed world and this is all they have left. I come up with all of these different scenarios, but the one that's the most powerful is we've identified a technology in our sky that we can't match, that not societal match. We can't do that. We can't make it ourselves. We're not told we can make them ourselves. However, then you have people who have come out of the government and said that yes, we have non-human biologics. We have technology. This is David Grush. So we have these things ourselves. We've been reverse engineering them. They were gifts. The treaty with Eisenhower and the Greys. Of course, who do you trust? There was a recent video out that asked this same question. We asked this years ago, 14 years ago. Who do you trust? The first aliens that turn up? Or the second aliens that turn up that tell you shouldn't have trusted the first aliens? How can you trust anyone unless you have a baseline about what trust should be with an alien species? The Nordics apparently, and this is all UFO law, had a meeting with Eisenhower and said, we can get you, we can work with you to do these things, all peace in mind. And then the Greys turned up and they had stealth technology and technologies that were war type technologies, and we went with them. Eisenhower went with them. The military industrial complex would have supported that direction a lot more than peace, because in the turmoil of post World War II, peace was the furthest thing from people's minds. Paranoia we were at the height of paranoia. So we thought then that we were at the height of paranoia, and I don't think it was going to get any better. But you go to if you were an alien species, you wouldn't go to the you wouldn't go to the smallest country. You'd go to a big country. You wouldn't go to the losing country. You would go to the ones on the winning side. You would probably have a level of cutoff to say who had the highest technology or something like that. All of those seem to marry up with what the UFO lore suggests. So for me, all of the stuff that happens on this planet is, I almost said Earth, like I'm not from here, but all of these things that are happening are distractions from, I think, that as well, because we have a little tidbit released to us, and then there's nothing to see here. What? How is that even possible? They advance the line and give us some information, and then suddenly they have some team that doesn't even have the ability to be able to report on historical information. I said this before. So if it were true that in 2017 we had a decade to release all the information we had because they're going to arrive. This is some UFO lore. That's the date, that's the year that they're going to arrive. And regardless of what we do, they're turning up. Imagine the effort in which you would have to carefully tread, the path you would have to take, the information releases you would have to do in order for that not to be a complete surprise. I think we're down that path already. But with only 2 years left, according to that lore or that story, then I don't think there's sufficient information to have us, want to have dinner with them, to sit down at a dinner party with these aliens, right? If it were true. I don't think there's enough release yet. All the people who are already kind of suspected it all to be true already are there. It's the majority of the population who I think now that I did the research on PFAS, I'm sure they're just trying to kill us slowly with...
Killing us with your song.
Exactly right. Killing us softly and slowly with PFAS. So that there's the very few of us left. And I can't see any other way around it. I do try, Mecca, you know that, right? But
no, and look,
I'm very patient and aware and happy to take new information on. And I think that's the best thing that we can be.
And it does feel like that. And I mean, I think there are many agendas that are playing out here at the same time on many different levels. And I do believe, and this is where it gets a little crazy, sorry everybody, but I think we keep shifting from one reality to another all the time. And funnily enough, I've spoken about this with Dave for decades now.
Yeah.
And certainly since we first started the show. And I see this actually coming out more and more in both science fiction literature as well as movies, as well as some actual theories in physics and quantum physics that are coming out, where we may be shifting all the time, not just once in a while, but all the time. It's just we don't really notice it, okay, because the changes are so minute. Like for example, when you feel that you have a you misplaced something, or something appears where it shouldn't, or whatever the case may be, and then you just dismiss it because
of course,
I must misremember it. But that kind of stuff happens to us all the time, and people just put it back to I misremembered, or it's faulty memory, or whatever, right? But what if it isn't? Right? What if you actually experience something like that is actually happening? Right?
Yeah.
And that's, of course, exactly what I think is happening. We are completely in denial about this, that we're shifting from reality to reality, right? So, and again, the changes are minute. It doesn't really matter. So there's
deja vu and the Mandela effect, Becky.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Mandela effect is probably the single biggest thing that points towards that, because a lot of people are remembering things, and I tell you what, the couple of things here. One that really had me stumped was the Berenstain and Berenstein bears. Now, I didn't grow up with it, so I had no knowledge of it at all, really, growing up. But then when I came across this Mandela effect, everybody called the books the Berenstein books. Right? Now, Stein is S-T-E-I-N in German. It's Stein, right? But it's Steen in English. That's how you pronounce it. Well, if it was always Berenstain, why wouldn't you say Berenstain bears? It makes no sense at all to call them the Berenstain bears. None. Okay, so that's one. Because I mean, this is clearly. I mean, you look at the word Berenstain. That's Berenstain, not Berenstein. The second one, which I have direct experience with and knowledge of, is the Fruit of the Loom logo.
Oh yes.
I will swear to my dying day that there was a cornucopia with the fruit.
Yes, me too.
right? Now, because when I first came across the brand, I lived in Germany. I didn't speak in English, right? I knew what fruit was, Frucht, or fruit, similar word in German, of the loom. So I thought for the longest time that loom was in fact the cornucopia, which of course it isn't.
Mm-hmm.
But the Fruit of the Loom logo, as far as I'm concerned, has a cornucopia on it. And sorry, I just remembered one other one. And this is probably the most striking one. And this is a James Bond movie where Jaws, the big guy with the steel teeth.
Yeah.
And in the movies, I think was Moonraker.
It was Moonraker, and I went to see it with my family.
Yeah. Now he falls in love, or he gets away. And he wasn't. And in the end, he wasn't really the bad guy. I mean, Jaws was just, I guess, like a childlike villain that had been corrupted.
Mm-hmm.
But he comes across this girl, blonde girl with glasses, much tinier than he was. But she smiled at him, and when she smiled at him, and he smiled back at her, that's when they fell in love. Now, the pertinent point here is this. Now, he obviously had a mouthful of steel.
He did.
Right?
That's right.
And when he saw her smile at him, and he saw her teeth,
yes,
which had braces.
That's correct. She did.
It was a mouthful of braces, and that was the pertinent point here. Here's another, because clearly he saw himself as a monster with steel teeth, but he is a woman, a beautiful woman in his eyes that has also got steel teeth, and she's smiling at him, and that's the thing that bonded them. That was the thing that romantically engaged them.
Totally.
And it made perfect sense. In fact, the scene doesn't make any sense at all
without it.
If you take the braces away, it makes no sense.
That's right.
It's complete nonsense.
Mm-hmm.
But it makes perfect sense, and I know for a fact that she was wearing braces. Not
Me
anymore.
too.
She's not anymore. So it is these things, right? And I know I'm not misremembering it, because it's also contextual, like Berenstain and Berenstein,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like the Moonraker teeth, and for me, the Fruit of the Loom, because it is a contextual thing for me, right? I wouldn't have remembered, because I didn't know what loom meant. Loom, of course, is the machine where you weave things. I had no idea that's what that is. In my mind, it was the cornucopia, right? So I thought, okay, in cornucopia, in German, Füllhorn. So I thought Füllhorn, clearly in English, is loom, and I didn't. It wasn't until many years later that I learned that it wasn't. So I'm giving you contextual Mandela effects here. And all of these things that I've just mentioned, all of these odd things that people don't really like to think about, or people don't like to acknowledge because it makes them uncomfortable, that's what's being kept away from our general population, right? To keep them, nicely subdued in their half dream, half wake states. Because if you're in that state, then you don't ask any questions, Dave. You don't ask any questions, you just accept it.
Yeah. So look, I've got some things on screen here, and if you were to hide and dismiss that changes had taken place, and I don't think the Mandela effect is unique enough that not all of the planet sees the change. Not all of the planet is on one side or the other. It's a mixture. I remember hearing that Mandela had died in prison, and then years later, much to my surprise and my mother's surprise, because we both were watching the same news story at breakfast before school one day, that he'd passed away. And then suddenly, years later, here he is being released from prison. And so, what? Well, he'd be a bit crusty, right? Whatever was left of him, once they just now swept out his prison cell? What? No, he was alive and well. And that didn't make a lick of sense. So the Berenstein Bears, that's how I knew them. I've got the Fruit of the Loom up there. Mackie, that's just amazing that I remember it with the basket. Yeah, that's what I remember it with. and I've got the Moonraker original Braces smile scene. This is Mandela FX version where they've put them on her, and that is exactly what I saw when I was at the movies. And my mum and I thought that was such a cute moment that both their mouths were filled with metal.
Yes.
That was what made that is what made the scene. He has a metal mouth.
Yes.
And she has a metal mouth. And they fell in love.
Yes.
That's it.
Nothing else makes sense.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make sense.
No. So I've got them on screen. I put them there for you. There'll be a link for each one below, and you can have the discussion. And this is definitely going to make a reel. So down below, can you let's have a discussion about it. If you know of any other Mandela effects that aren't widely known, do give us some support and provide some links to something. See, now all of our information and our research is occurring on the internet. This is the basis of our lives today.
Yes, you're right.
And if it isn't on the internet, it's not true, according to everybody. This is the way, this is what the internet has turned out to be. It's both the truth, the ally, and the enemy. And it's got more lies than the truth. And if you really want to mess with someone, you can do a thing called astroturfing, and that is by filling the whole internet up with the lie. And so anyone trying to find the truth, now the truth is buried in a deep muck of lies, and it's very difficult to find the truth, and everyone believes the lie from then on. These examples, Becky, that we've provided here are ones that we knew before the internet.
Correct. But it has become almost fashionable to lie. In fact, totally. To lie for no reason.
Yeah.
And this has gone to the highest offices in the land. And I hate to say this, right? Now, politicians, in my mind, are just liars.
That's where I was going. If they're speaking, they're lying.
Yeah, that's right. If their pie hole is open, only lies are coming out. But and I hate to say this, but the Trump administration has taken it. And this is important because everybody watches American news and American politics. But the Trump administration has taken it to the next level, where Donald Trump is talking about his uncle, and almost the entire story is completely made up. It hasn't got any basis in reality, except that he did actually teach at MIT, but none of it, not the Unabomber, not the 3 degrees, not the longest serving member, etc., none of that is even remotely true.
But he had an uncle.
And Christy, he had an uncle, he did. Christy Noem, when she had the press conference, and the senator came in, I forget his name now, and he was arrested and handcuffed. She said, "Oh, if only he had identified himself." He came into the room saying what he was saying, who he is, and before he asked this question, he said again who he was. And when they manhandled him out, he kept repeating who he was. So these are blatant lies. And then the one thing, and this is what's going to break the administration's neck, in my opinion, the Epstein thing. Yeah, there's a conspiracy, and we're gonna release it all. And Bongiorno and Patel, Cash Patel, that's right. All firebrand and going, yeah, it's terrible and blah, blah, blah. And then they do a 180. Nothing to say here. And Donald Trump is upset that people talk about it. Now, I'm not saying that he started all these rumors, which he didn't, that's good, but it was part of his ticket. And the people that he brought in, they were riding on that. That was their ticket. That was what they were known for, and then you can't just dismiss it. And now they're wondering why doesn't it go away? Because it was made into such a big thing. And just to be clear here, this is nonpartisan, right? This will hurt everybody if it's released. There's nobody that will not be hurt by this in some way, okay? And that's why it won't be released. It won't be released because it is particularly damaging for Donald Trump, right? I don't think it is. I really don't. But it won't be released because it is damaging to the most important to the most powerful people, the parasites. That's who it's That's who it's damaging for. Those particular people. And that's why it will not see the light of day. And that's why they're terrified now. You look at Bongiorno. You look at Patel. They're terrified out of their mind. They want this thing to go away. No, please don't talk about it anymore. No.
Well, Mackie, it's simply one other piece of information here, and that is the Trump attempted assassination. Where's any of the detail? Where's his phone logs? Where's his whereabout logs? Where did he get all the equipment? Who was the one? Was he nudged? Was he a CIA nudge? There's nothing. It's a black hole.
Yeah.
There's no data, no calls, nothing.
Nothing. It's astounding. With I mean, and then to deepen the conspiracy, there's a minute missing. There's 3 minutes missing. We don't ever see his door.
That's right.
The stairs are completely out of sight. Someone could have snuck up. Nothing in that story makes any sense. And coroners have said this kind of injury, this kind of broken bone, occurs normally in a strangulation, not in a. Is it the music?
Yes, it is.
You're kidding me. Hey, this has been played way too fast. This has been Platos Cave. Don't go anywhere. Something awesome is going to come up. We'll talk to you again on Sunday. Excuse me, shiny side out. But in the meantime, Dave,
be safe.
Thank you for listening to Revolution